The air hung heavy with the scent of wilting roses as the Hawthorne estate embraced the shroud of mourning. In overcast sky, the color of lead brooded over the centuries-old manor and the sprawling gardens that bore witness to generations of whispered tales and untold secrets. Clara, with raven-black hair cascading down her shoulders, moved with a quiet grace that betrayed the storm raging within. She was the eldest daughter, now tasked with shouldering the burden of a legacy tainted by grief. The manor's grand oak doors groaned in protest as they swung open, revealing the dimly lit foyer adorned with ancestral portraits, their eyes seemingly following the procession of black-clad mourners. The family gathered beneath the ornate chandelier, its crystal tears refracting the sorrow etched across each face. Elias Hawthorne, the family patriarch, had departed the mortal realm, leaving behind a void that echoed through the cavernous halls. Clara's eyes, a mosaic of sadness and determination, surveyed the assembly. Her siblings, each bearing the weight of sorrow in their own way, huddled together as they sought solace in the familiar embrace of familial bonds. The decision to construct a mausoleum emerged from the collective grief that hovered like a specter. A mausoleum to immortalize Elias, to house the relics of generations past. Clara, a historian by trade, found herself appointed as the guardian of the family's history, an unwitting guide through the labyrinth of ancestry and the shadows it concealed. As the family gathered to discuss the mausoleum's design, the air seemed to thicken with unspoken words and hesitant glances. Clara, though poised, felt the weight of responsibility settle upon her shoulders like a ceremonial cloak. The mausoleum was to be more than a tomb. It was to be a monument to the Hawthorne legacy, a testament to the endurance of familial ties. The construction began with an air of reluctant anticipation. Builders and architects labored under the watchful eyes of the family, the rhythmic echo of hammers and chisels punctuating the uneasy silence. Clara, her fingers tracing the edges of faded family portraits, contemplated the choice to immortalize her father within the cold embrace of stone walls. Yet, as the mausoleum's skeletal structure rose from the earth like a phoenix from the ashes, so did a palpable tension within the estate. Shadows danced on the periphery of vision, and whispers, too soft to decipher, echoed through the halls. Clara dismissed these signs as mere manifestations of grief-fueled imagination, a dismissive comfort she clung to as the first stones were laid. Little did Clara know the mausoleum, conceived to honor, would soon become a conduit to the realms beyond, a portal through which the family would unwittingly unlock the doors to ancient malevolence. The morning shadows that draped the Hawthorne estate were but a prelude to the darkness yet to come. The mausoleum, an architectural marvel intertwined with the melancholy of mourning, grew like an ominous monolith on the outskirts of the Hawthorne estate. Clara, driven by an unrelenting curiosity, found herself drawn to the structure as if pulled by unseen hands. The air, once filled with the scent of freshly turned soil, now carried a subtle hint of decay, a harbinger of the darkness that lay hidden within. As Clara approached, the mausoleum loomed overhead like a silent sentinel guarding a trove of forgotten secrets. Its stones, now weathered by time and tainted by the damp embrace of the countryside, bore the weight of countless memories etched into their silent surfaces. The entrance, framed by an ornate archway, beckoned Clara with an unsettling allure. The heavy door, wrought with intricate carvings, resisted her gentle push before reluctantly creaking open. The mausoleum's interior revealed a sepulchral chamber adorned with cobwebs, dust particles pirouetting in the muted light that filtered through stained glass windows. Clara's steps echoed against the cold stone floor, a rhythmic cadence that seemed to harmonize with the ominous whispers that lingered in the air. The cryptic symbols etched into the walls seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, their meaning eluding her like shadows that danced just beyond reach. With an air of trepidation, Clara traced the symbols with her fingertips, their ancient grooves transmitting a cold resonance that sent shivers down her spine. The symbols seemed to writhe beneath her touch, as if awakening from a long slumber. Unbeknownst to Clara, the mausoleum itself responded to her presence, sensing the living intruder within its sacred confines. In a secluded alcove, a series of faded journals lay untouched by time. Elias's meticulous handwriting chronicled the family's history, its triumphs, its tragedies, and the unspeakable deeds that had become obscured by the passage of time. As Clara leafed through the pages, the unsettling truth began to unfurl like a malevolent tapestry. Elias, in his pursuit of power and ancestral knowledge, had delved into forbidden rituals that bridged the chasm between life and death. The mausoleum, constructed as a vessel for remembrance, had unwittingly become a conduit for a darkness born of familial betrayal. The unsettling realization gripped Clara like a vice. The mausoleum, far from being a mere tomb, housed the vestiges of forbidden rituals that bound the deceased to a malevolent curse. The symbols on the walls were not merely decorative, they were sigils that wove a sinister tapestry connecting the living and the dead. As Clara retraced her steps, the mausoleum seemed to exhale a heavy sigh, its secrets echoing through the hallowed chambers. Unveiling the dark secret, she felt the weight of ancestral sins pressing upon her shoulders, a burden she was now compelled to bear as the guardian of a legacy tainted by betrayal and bound by an ancient curse. The shadows, once mere whispers, now swirled with a renewed malevolence, marking the beginning of a descent into the abyss of the Hawthorne family's haunted history. The mausoleum, now a repository of unveiled secrets, cast a foreboding silhouette against the waning light. Clara, grappling with the weight of ancestral betrayal, found herself standing at the threshold of the cryptic realm within. The door, once reluctant, now yielded willingly, as if aware of the inescapable destiny that awaited the Hawthorne family. The air within the mausoleum hung heavy with an ancient resonance, a spectral hum that seemed to beckon Clara deeper into its sepulchral embrace. Shadows danced on the walls like ethereal specters, whispering secrets that resonated with the disquieting echoes of the past. The cryptic symbols, now pulsating with an otherworldly energy, seemed to guide her through the labyrinth of familial sins. In the heart of the mausoleum, the Hawthorne family assembled for a desperate seance. Clara, the reluctant matriarch of a cursed lineage, took her place at the center, surrounded by flickering candlelight and the palpable tension that crackled through the air. Her siblings, eyes clouded with a mixture of fear and curiosity, formed a circle around her. The seance began with hesitant murmurs and furtive glances, as if the family questioned the wisdom of their endeavors. Clara, however, found solace in the ritual, a tenuous connection to the ethereal realm that held the answers to the family's torment. The room became a crucible where the living sought communion with the departed, unaware of the malevolent forces they were about to awaken. As the seance unfolded, the mausoleum responded with a spectral energy that transcended the boundaries of the mortal realm. Candles flickered with an unnatural intensity, and the air thickened with an electric charge. Clara's voice, a delicate cadence, echoed the incantations that sought to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Yet, the spirits that answered were not the benevolent echoes of cherished kin. Instead, the mausoleum disgorged a torrent of vengeful entities. The deceased relatives, their ethereal forms twisted by the malevolent curse, materialized with a ghastly presence that sent shivers through the gathered family. Elias, the once respected patriarch, emerged as a distorted specter, his eyes smoldering with an unholy fire. Other ancestral figures, their visages contorted with rage, encircled the living like a legion of forgotten sins demanding retribution. The seance, meant to bring closure, instead birthed a chorus of anguished spirits seeking solace in vengeance. The mausoleum, now an ethereal battleground, resonated with the cacophony of spectral wails and the chilling echoes of familial betrayal. Clara, her connection to the spiritual realm severed, stared into the eyes of the tormented apparitions. The living and the dead stood at an impasse, each trapped in the malevolent dance orchestrated by the curse that bound them together. As the seance drew to a tumultuous close, the Hawthorne family, unwittingly bound to the spirits they had summoned, found themselves ensnared in a web of ancient malevolence. The mausoleum, a sanctuary turned malevolent, bore witness to a family's unwitting descent into the abyss, the tendrils of the curse tightening their grip on the living and the dead alike. The mausoleum, now tainted by the spirits it had unwittingly unleashed, echoed with the haunting remnants of the ill-fated seance. Clara, her resolve unyielding, found herself thrust into a nightmarish odyssey as she sought to unravel the intricacies of the malevolent curse that ensnared her family. Days melded into nights as the estate became a battleground between the living and the vengeful entities that now prowled its once hallowed halls. Clara, driven by a desperate determination to break the curse, immersed herself in Elias's journals, each page an unholy testament to a legacy steeped in forbidden knowledge. The family, their faces etched with the shadows of ancestral torment, gathered in solemn conclaves to discuss arcane rituals and occult remedies. Candles cast flickering shadows on their faces as they pored over ancient tomes, their desperation heightened by the realization that each attempt to sever the spectral tether seemed to intensify the malevolence that gripped them. The mausoleum, once a symbol of remembrance, now stood as a towering monument to the family's folly. Clara, guided by a newfound understanding of the curse, orchestrated desperate rites and rituals in a bid to banish the spirits that clung to the frayed edges of the mortal realm. The ancestral portraits lining the manor's walls, once stoic witnesses to the family's triumphs, now bore witness to frenzied incantations and desperate pleas for redemption. Clara, her eyes ablaze with determination, moved with a grace that belied the turmoil within, orchestrating rituals that veered perilously close to the forbidden. As the rituals unfolded, the mausoleum responded with a twisted energy, its walls seemingly pulsating with an ethereal heartbeat. The malevolent entities, sensing the family's desperation, became more aggressive, manifesting in distorted apparitions that haunted the family's waking hours and invaded their tortured dreams. The once vibrant gardens, now choked with the tendrils of a spectral malaise, became the stage for further attempts to break the curse. Clara, her steps guided by an otherworldly intuition, moved through the estate with an air of spectral determination. Yet, with each ritual performed, the family found themselves ensnared in a nightmarish paradox, the curse tightening its grip even as they sought to sever it. Elias's journals, now annotated with desperate scribblings, hinted at a final ritual, a sacrificial act that promised redemption at an unimaginable cost. The family, teetering on the precipice of despair, faced an agonizing decision as they contemplated the sacrifice required to break the curse's malevolent hold. The estate, now a crucible of both earthly and supernatural anguish, bore witness to a family teetering on the brink of annihilation. Clara, burdened by the weight of her ancestral legacy, stood at the forefront of a battle against forces that transcended the mortal realm, her every step a delicate dance between salvation and eternal torment. The estate, now a haunted tapestry woven with spectral threads, trembled beneath the weight of the unfolding curse. Clara, a beacon of resilience amid encroaching darkness, stood on the precipice of a harrowing revelation. As the moon cast its silvery glow upon the Hawthorne Manor, shadows deepened and the mausoleum loomed like a malevolent sentinel against the night sky. Within the family's once stalwart abode, the atmosphere pulsated with a palpable malevolence. The ancestral portraits lining the walls, once static witnesses to the family's triumphs, now seemed to grimace in silent agony. Clara's siblings, their eyes haunted by the twisted apparitions that stalked their every waking moment, clung to the hope that the final ritual would be the elusive key to their salvation. The mausoleum, its stones now imbibed with an unnatural energy, seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Clara, driven by an unwavering resolve, led the family towards the heart of the spectral tempest. Shadows clung to the edges of her silhouette as she stepped across the threshold, her movements guided by the cryptic revelations within Elias's annotated journals. The family, a fractured assembly united by a shared fate, entered the mausoleum with trepidation. The air within seemed to hum with the echoes of forgotten incantations, as if the very walls retained a memory of the ancient rituals that had birthed the curse. The cryptic symbols, now aglow with an eerie luminescence, guided the family towards the chamber that housed the culmination of their desperate journey. As they delved deeper, the mausoleum underwent a grotesque transformation. Corridors elongated into nightmarish vistas, and the air thickened with a spectral fog that clung to their skin like a shroud. The apparitions of deceased relatives, their distorted forms flickering in and out of existence, became a tormenting retinue, mirroring the family's descent into the abyss. The final chamber, bathed in an otherworldly glow, revealed a dais adorned with an ancient altar. Clara, guided by the annotated journals, stepped forward, her breath hitching as she faced the sacrificial ritual that promised redemption. The air seemed to constrict as the mausoleum absorbed the collective fear and anticipation of the family, echoing it back in a dissonant symphony. The sacrificial act unfolded with a macabre grace, each step towards redemption mirrored by the escalating horrors that plagued the family. Shadows manifested into grotesque shapes, and the spectral wails of the malevolent entities crescendoed like a nightmarish symphony. The mausoleum, now a crucible of both despair and desperate hope, absorbed the family's sacrifice with an insatiable hunger. Yet, as the ritual reached its climax, an unsettling truth emerged. The curse, far from being appeased, seemed to coil tighter around the family's collective soul. The mausoleum, now a pulsating nexus of malevolence, reveled in the family's desperation, transforming into a nightmarish realm where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred with grotesque elegance. As Clara, her eyes wide with realization, witnessed the escalation of horrors, the family found themselves ensnared in a cycle of eternal torment. The mausoleum, now a spectral mausoleum of despair, stood as a testament to the family's tragic legacy, a legacy bound to the malevolent entities that now reveled in the perpetual suffering of those who dared to tread the haunted corridors of the Hawthorne estate. Chapter 6: The Final Ritual. The mausoleum, now a malevolent sanctum pulsating with eldritch energies, bore witness to the desperate tableau unfolding within its haunted confines. Clara, her eyes a reflection of both determination and despair, stood at the heart of the spectral maelstrom, surrounded by the tormented remnants of her family. The sacrificial act, meant to break the curse's grip, had instead birthed a nightmare that transcended mortal comprehension. The chamber, bathed in an ethereal glow, resonated with the echoes of an unfulfilled promise. Shadows cast by unseen entities danced along the walls like macabre apparitions reveling in the family's collective agony. The air, thick with a spectral tension, seemed to vibrate with the dissonant harmonies of a curse that resisted all attempts at appeasement. As Clara faced the malevolent altar, its surface now stained with the residue of the sacrificial ritual, she clutched Elias's annotated journals like a talisman against the encroaching darkness. The cryptic symbols, aglow with an unnatural luminescence, seemed to writhe in anticipation as if the very stones harbored a consciousness that reveled in the family's torment. The apparitions of the deceased relatives, their distorted forms now a grotesque manifestation of the curse's insatiable hunger, encircled the family like a legion of forgotten sins. Their anguished wails reverberated through the mausoleum, blending with the haunting whispers that echoed within its shadowed corridors. With each step towards the altar, Clara sensed a shift in the fabric of reality. The mausoleum, a nexus between the living and the dead, seemed to warp and contort with an unsettling sentience. The family, ensnared by a spectral paradox, faced a choice that resonated beyond the boundaries of mortal existence. The final ritual, whispered within the annotated pages, called for a sacrifice beyond the tangible realm, a surrender of the intangible essence that defined the family's collective soul. Clara, guided by a mixture of desperation and an unwavering determination, led the family through the ethereal incantations that sought to unravel the curse's malevolent weave. As the ritual reached its zenith, the mausoleum responded with a crescendo of spectral energies. The air crackled with an otherworldly electricity, and the very stones seemed to absorb the family's essence. Shadows converged upon Clara, intertwining with her very being, as if the mausoleum sought to merge the living and the dead into a grotesque fusion. Yet, in a dissonant twist, the ritual backfired. The mausoleum, now a conduit for a force beyond mortal comprehension, consumed the family in a torrent of eldritch energies. The spectral entities, far from being appeased, gained a renewed strength that defied the family's desperate efforts. As Clara, her form now translucent and bound to the malevolent energies, witnessed the disintegration of her family, the mausoleum became a vortex of eternal suffering. The curse, far from being broken, evolved into a perpetual cycle of torment that ensnared the Hawthorne lineage within its ethereal clutches. The once grand mausoleum, now a spectral monument to a doomed legacy, stood as a chilling testament to the family's tragic fate. Clara, a spectral wraith within the accursed structure, bore witness to the unending cycle of suffering, the anguished cries echoing through the silent corridors for all eternity. The mausoleum, now a tomb of perpetual despair, held the shattered remnants of a family ensnared in a curse that transcended the boundaries of life and death. The mausoleum, now a spectral bastion echoing with the tormented wails of the Hawthorne family, stood as an unholy monument to their accursed fate. Clara, a spectral wraith bound to the malevolent energies that permeated the haunted corridors, hovered within the ethereal realm of perpetual twilight. The air, thick with a spectral miasma, seemed to vibrate with the anguished echoes of a family ensnared in an unending cycle of suffering. The once grand structure, now a tomb of perpetual despair, bore the scars of the family's desperate attempts to break free. Cryptic symbols, now etched into the very fabric of the mausoleum's essence, pulsed with an eerie luminescence, their meaning lost in the distorted tapestry of the curse that gripped the family in its spectral clutches. The apparitions of the deceased relatives, their forms now twisted beyond recognition, circled Clara like vengeful spirits trapped in a grotesque danse macabre. The family's collective soul, now woven into the very fabric of the mausoleum, became an eternal wellspring of torment, each anguished cry a haunting requiem that reverberated through the silent corridors. Clara, her eyes reflecting the fractured remnants of a once determined spirit, traversed the mausoleum's ethereal landscape. The boundaries between reality and the spectral realm blurred, and the tortured apparitions of her family beckoned from the shadows, a spectral chorus eternally trapped in the haunting melody of their own demise. The mausoleum, now a prison of perpetual twilight, manifested its malevolent sentience. Clara, once the guardian of her family's history, now bore witness to the unending nightmare that had consumed the lineage. The cursed spirits, driven by a relentless thirst for vengeance, haunted the spectral landscape like shadows that clung to the frayed edges of the living world. In the heart of the mausoleum, Clara stumbled upon an ethereal altar, an echo of the sacrificial ritual that had birthed this eternal confinement. The altar, bathed in a sickly glow, seemed to resonate with the anguish of a family ensnared in a cycle of perpetual torment. Clara, her translucent form drawn to the spectral energies, touched the altar with a spectral hand. As she did, a kaleidoscope of memories unfolded: the construction of the mausoleum, the desperate seance, the rituals that had escalated the curse, and the final sacrificial act that had become a catalyst for unending suffering. Clara, now an unwilling witness to the family's tragic legacy, realized the depth of the betrayal that bound them to the spectral purgatory. The mausoleum, its malevolence insatiable, absorbed Clara's realization like a sinister revelation. The curse, now a sentient force, tightened its grip on her essence. The family's collective soul, now an eternal wellspring of suffering, became a puppet in the hands of a malevolent fate that reveled in the perpetual dance between the living and the dead. As Clara, trapped within the spectral confines of the mausoleum, gazed upon the tortured apparitions of her family, the haunting requiem reached a dissonant crescendo. The once grand structure, now a tomb of perpetual despair, bore silent witness to the family's eternal confinement, a tragic fate eternally etched into the very stones that bound the living and the dead within the haunted corridors of the Hawthorne estate. The mausoleum, a spectral testament to a lineage consumed by betrayal and cursed by forbidden knowledge, stood as a haunting monument to the Hawthorne family's unending torment. The Hawthorne estate, veiled in perpetual twilight, stood as a forsaken haven for the malevolent spirits that now claimed dominion over its haunted halls. The once lush gardens, now choked with spectral tendrils, whispered secrets of a family ensnared in the eternal dance between the living and the dead. The mausoleum, a spectral monument to the Hawthorne legacy, cast a long, foreboding shadow over the desolate landscape. Clara, now a spectral wraith eternally bound to the haunted corridors, moved through the mausoleum with a ghostly grace. Her translucent form, trapped in the eternal twilight, bore witness to the unending suffering that echoed through the spectral landscape. The apparitions of her family, distorted by the malevolent curse, haunted the corridors like fragments of a shattered existence. The ancestral portraits, once stoic guardians of the family's history, now seemed to weep in silent lament. The mausoleum, its stones saturated with the anguished cries of the tormented spirits, stood as a macabre testament to the family's tragic fate. Clara, the unwitting architect of their eternal confinement, drifted through the haunted tapestry of memories, a spectral witness to the ceaseless torment. The curse, now a sentient force woven into the very fabric of the mausoleum, reveled in the family's unending suffering. Shadows clung to the spectral remnants of the Hawthorne lineage, each apparition a twisted reflection of the lives they had once known. The curse, like a malevolent maestro, orchestrated the eternal requiem that echoed through the silent corridors. As Clara moved towards the heart of the mausoleum, she stumbled upon a spectral chamber, a reflection of the family's living quarters frozen in a perpetual moment of despair. The furniture, draped in spectral cobwebs, stood as ghostly relics of a time before the curse had unraveled the fabric of their existence. The mausoleum, now a sepulchre of memories, seemed to replay the family's tragic history like a haunting tableau. In the ethereal chamber, Clara's siblings, their apparitions forever trapped in the throes of anguish, seemed to reach out with spectral hands. Their eyes, windows to tortured souls, mirrored the depths of despair that now defined their existence. The once vibrant family, now reduced to phantoms within the mausoleum's spectral embrace, sought solace in the haunting echoes of their shared torment. The mausoleum, a nexus between the living and the dead, absorbed the family's perpetual anguish with a sinister hunger. Clara, her spectral form drawn towards the core of the cursed structure, felt the pull of an eternal vortex, a malevolent force that sought to merge the spectral and the corporeal into a grotesque fusion. As she approached the heart of the mausoleum, a spectral altar, bathed in an unholy glow, seemed to pulse with an insatiable hunger. The curse, now a sentient entity, sought to perpetuate the family's suffering, feeding on the spectral essence that lingered within the haunted corridors. Clara, the unwilling harbinger of their eternal torment, realized the futility of breaking free from the spectral prison she had unwittingly forged. The mausoleum, now a tomb of perpetual despair, stood as a chilling testament to the Hawthorne family's tragic fate. Clara, her essence forever entwined with the malevolent energies, surrendered to the relentless pull of the curse. The haunting requiem, an eternal symphony of anguish, reverberated through the mausoleum's silent corridors, a spectral chorus that echoed the family's unending torment for all eternity. As the spectral vortex consumed Clara, the mausoleum stood as a spectral bastion, a monument to a family ensnared in a curse that transcended the boundaries of life and death. The Hawthorne estate, now a desolate haven for malevolent entities, bore witness to the ceaseless dance between the living and the dead, a haunting legacy eternally etched into the haunted tapestry of the Hawthorne family's tragic history. The mausoleum, now a tomb of perpetual despair, stood as a chilling testament to the Hawthorne family's unending torment.